Hey there, Sage.
Alright, and we're recording now. Just a forewarning, there might be a little bit of background noise from my computer.
Awesome. So tonight starts the 9/29/19 Council of Crowns meeting. Let's go through attendance real quick. Astral wins. Puppet, I think I saw you there. Are you there?
I see him, but he's muted.
Oh, okay. I found the button. Found it.
Yay, Astral wins is here. Ravenstone. Rolo.
Yep, here.
Lupin Moon. Cruven.
Here.
Roco.
Here.
And Icefire Bay.
Here.
All right. Our guests, we have Hars.
Right here.
Other speaking guests. And Nalarian. All right. Just some basic announcements from our offline discussions. As Cruven has previously stated, he will actually be handling our streaming and uploading to YouTube. Thank you, Cruven. For those looking for the recordings of our previous meetings, I am going to get those over to either Cruven or Nalarian, who wants to post those up for me. I can get the MP3s over you guys tonight or tomorrow. Orders of the Crown, everything's been resolved with those. I should be inputting awards over this next week, so there should be a large flood of awards for everybody. Yay. If you have any questions about how your awards were calculated for your Orders of the Crown, you can ask anybody in the CoC. I think everybody's pretty up to date on that. CoC, if you have questions, I'm happy to go over them with you. I think we linked the spreadsheet into the CoC chat so you can answer questions for folks. That is our basic announcements for the offline business we handled. Is Goran with us tonight? Does not look like it. Very excusable as we rescheduled this with super short notice. I apologize, everybody. That was my doing. I had a conflict with my daughter's high school. So that would have been our ambassador report. He's not here. If he shows up later, we'll swing back to that. And Dungeon Con updates. Next on the agenda is the Regents report. That's going to be Hars. Hars, can you get us up to date for what's going on with the regions? Or regents?
Can do. So this is just the, I had charted this out for our last meeting since I wasn't able to make it, but not a whole lot's changed from it. Arts and Sciences, every location has established a place for weekly ANS nights. Due to Lucian's absence, it was unclear at the time if Rocco did, but it sounded like his recent Facebook post did seem to indicate that he has one set up. As a note here, I'm also making sure to talk to Drake later about setting up some ANS contests for the rain theme. So Drake, I'll definitely get with you after this meeting's out. Mid-rain. Sorry, what's that?
I was going to chime in on behalf of Lucian here and say that we do have a weekly ANS schedule set up, and when he can't do it, I fill in, or his defender.
Fantastic. All right. As for mid-rains, as of the last meeting we had, all regents, barring Frozen Coast at that time, had established locations for their upcoming mid-rains. Do you have an update for that one as well, Durshar?
As far as the actual game day, it will be at the rec center. I have not talked with Lucian in depth about what we've got going on for Feast just yet, but I will touch base with him on that this week, and we'll get a plan banged out for you.
Perfect. The plan is to have a Regions meeting this Friday. So if you don't get anything out of him, I'll probably find something out of him by that point too. So next, under member recruitments and publicity opportunities, food fight. Per the request of Northreach's food fight autocrat Nalarian, I've asked the Regions Council about organizing the volunteer sessions for their local food banks to help with food fight. I don't know what the extent of the results of that have been. I know everyone's been pretty busy this rain. We kind of hit the ground running. The extent of what I know is I believe Abram had set up a donation bin at his work, the DMV. And that's about the extent of what I know. I haven't really touched bases with anyone on that in a while. I've been at. Another update is Yuki Fest. We had as some of you guys probably saw the dates, there's a bit of a schedule conflict between Yuki Fest and Dungeon Con. And initially we were considering to just set up a small booth there, just with a skeleton crew pretty much, and just have it there just to say we have a booth there. But after deliberation with Mara, we kind of are thinking of just cutting our losses with Yuki Fest for that year and just try again next year. Hopefully it doesn't conflict with each other the next time. And that's kind of where that conversation begins and ends. Another one is Extra Life Gaming. I've talked about this a couple years ago, and I'm just kind of putting a general feel out there for the kingdom possibly involving itself. It's a charity program called Extra Life. It's where basically nerds can play games and live stream it on either at a public or their own private venue, and people donate money to them while they play, and that money that's donated gets donated to the participating children's hospitals, which in this case is the Children's Hospital of Providence. And the plan is still kind of early in development, and I'll probably have a more concrete update on that come the next meeting. Lastly is calendar update. The only real change I did, apart from what I initially did from our last meeting, is I updated the calendar to include Month of the Crown dates for all regions, as well as Ravenstone's event Haven Glow.
Does anybody have questions for Hars? Anything with the Regions Council?
Nothing from me.
Spectators Lounge, you're welcome to chime in as well.
No questions here.
Hars, you might want to get with Goran. He's working with some folks from the Extra Life. They're trying to coordinate something with us, helping with the set up a bar at their event.
All right, sounds good. I'll definitely hit him up about that.
Do you have any updates on the mid-rains or the your Tour de North?
Yes, we do. We have the dates all set up. Let me just pull up Google Calendar really quick. Icefire Bay and Froco's mid-rains are first on the lineup. That's going to be Saturday, October 26th to October 27th. The week after that is going to be Lupin Moon's mid-rain on November 2nd and November 3rd. Lupin Moon and Ravenstone. And lastly, we have on the 9th of November, which would be Astro Winds' mid-rain.
We were looking to change it possibly a week later. Chucky was going to talk to the Council of Regions.
Oh,
it falls on the one of our major events here in Fairbanks. Some kind of con. I'm not sure. He was the one heading up the.
PopCon. I was not aware of that.
I think so. Yeah, it's like 7th through the 9th. It's going on or something.
And answer to your question, Freya, the dates for Dungeon Con are essentially mirror the dates of back when it was just Dungeon Crawl. It's always been the first weekend of February, like every year for the past, I want to say 5 or 6 years we've been doing this now.
As a note, these dates reflect our Crown calendar. So the first, that's when our crown changes over. So that's why we have the large event there. Wolf's Cry is when our other crown changes over. So we have a large event there. So that's some of the background on those dates.
Right. Those are set by our bylaws and admin manual.
Right. Anyway, I had not heard anything about the change of dates. I will definitely get with him about that and update the calendar accordingly. I would like to note though that this cuts into the first weekend into Month of the Crown. Is that a thing we're allowed to do?
Sorry, what is cutting into the weekend for the Month of the Crown?
Astral Winds is mid-reign. Like the first weekend we had set for that is the weekend we had set for that for Astral Winds was November 9th, which is also the start of the Month of the Crown.
PM changeovers can't change. Those are going to be bound by the elections.
Well, PM changeovers are set at mid-reign. Although that sounds awfully early for Month of Crown.
If it is, I can
November.
I was just going based on what I found in the books. I can double check and update it if I need.
Month of Crown should be January.
That was what I thought. I thought it was right before right before we turned over crowns.
Let me check that really quick.
Should be tail end of December, all of January. Month of Crown actually lasts about 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know why it was set all the way back here. I'm gonna do some updating on the calendar and I'll follow up with the group.
All right, thank you, Hars. Did anybody else have something for Hars? By the way, since this is recorded, to answer anybody's question that's confused, the dates for Dungeon Con came up because Freya asked in our spectators lounge who set the date for Dungeon Con. All right, no other discussion on that. Let's just move on to the next topic. Corin, do you have any updates on the credit cards for the regions and bank updates?
Not really. With that being on the agenda, I just pulled the state website information on our board, and that's not updated yet. So my hands are tied on making any bank account changes until that's updated with our current information.
Have they told you anything? What was like a holdup on it? I take it they took the money and processed everything.
That would actually be a question for you. You had the paperwork.
The credit card paperwork?
No, the change of board members paperwork.
Let's chat after this because I think we're mixing something up because I'm pretty sure I gave it to you at Wolf's Cry.
Yeah, we can chat after.
Okay.
My understanding was you had it. So.
Okay.
I guess that could explain why it's not done. If you both thought the other person had the papers.
Yeah. All right, yeah, let's chat afterwards and we'll make sure to clear all this up because that could be a really silly mix-up. All right. Let's look here. So Corin, let's get since we're obviously on a hold up on that, Puppet's going to need some access to funding. Do we have alternative means to get them access to funding up there right now?
We're good right now. The urgency is past, so it's too late for that. So anyway,
yeah, just keeping money in their cash box. That's all I've got for them.
Who's on their bank account up there?
Me, you.
Okay. All right. Moving down. Public files. Corin, you were working on making public files. We've had some people concerned that they're not able to view easily, like PM reports, our audits, and such. Have you been working on compiling everything that should be viewable?
I have the public files folder of things that are legally required to be made available on request. As far as transparency and making ledgers viewable, I've not started looking into what it would take to rearrange the documents that are currently filed for Chancellor's Council to make sure that anything that shouldn't be public isn't, and anything that could be public is available. So nothing on that one yet. So as far as migrating ledgers into viewable places, not worked on that yet.
Okay, do you want help on that, or do you have like a timeline where we could tell folks this is when I can easily get this to you? Otherwise, I mean, I suppose I can just link out the 2019 stuff, but I don't want to link out anything with like the membership applications just for personal information.
Yeah, I'd have to review what's where and what might be sensitive. I can take that as a takeaway for the next between now and the next meeting.
Awesome, thank you. Does anybody else have questions for Corin on the public files?
I could also go ahead and post a link to the actual public files folder that I've got that is audited and not sensitive.
Perfect, yeah. You can post that out, and we can maybe have Nalarian pin that to our website front page.
Yeah.
It would also be convenient if when you get the rest of it finished, if you could let us know, because I know personally my populace is chomping at the bit wanting to see the information.
Yeah.
We can get some of that basic information out there pretty quick and easy. Just having all of the information is going to be probably a little bit of the time sink.
Yeah, if you want to drop into chat stuff, whatever would be best to prioritize, I can focus on that first.
And then, is this going to be in like a Google Doc or like a separate file type thing?
Google Docs.
Perfect.
He's essentially reorganizing the Google Docs to where all the information people are going to need is available without having sensitive information accessible.
And they're not so much worried about seeing what we've already got up and done, but they want to know where they can check up on it and follow it going forward as we push back towards getting stuff rebuilt.
Absolutely, and we're going to actually cover that a little bit later in this meeting, a couple item lines down, because that's something that I really want us to touch on, because it's obviously something that's affecting the entire kingdom right now.
Agreed.
Oh, and actually, that's the next line item here, so perfect roll into it. So I want to discuss how we're actually going to do our audit procedures moving forward. For a little bit of history on this, previously when we were just a principality, every 6 months we would compile all the data for the previous 6 months, and there would be an audit twice a year. When we became a kingdom, we moved into a monthly, we just took the monthly reports as our audit process. I think some of that has left it where we're not necessarily reviewing all the data. I'm a little bit concerned about how much we're actually focusing and paying attention, and people are actually seeing that data that we're compiling. Corin, this is kind of in your wheelhouse as the KPM. Do you have thoughts on our audit process?
We need to fix it. Right now, the things being listed as auditable are not necessarily well defined. A lot of it is, well, for example, one of the things is that the prime ministers are supposed to report on the awards that the monarchs gave, but they're reporting that to the monarchs. So it's like the monarchs have the list of things that that's being reported to them to begin with, or they should, because they're the ones making the lists. And that's just one example. So we're going around in circles to get back to where we started.
Is that something we put on the PM reports?
Yes, in theory, at least.
Oh, okay. I
Well,
just learned about. I just learned about those like last month. So.
Well, okay. And the monarchs shouldn't be doing the PM reports, but prime ministers do not give awards. So for the prime ministers to report the awards to the monarchs that the monarchs gave is redundant, I guess.
We can completely rework our audit. We honestly never really solidly formed our audit process. So I think this would be a really good opportunity for us to actually form how that is, get it in stone, and make it where everybody's reviewing the information and everything is being double checked. Currently, right now, our monthly audit, our monthly PM reports are great, but I mean, okay, show of hands here, who's reviewed them other than me, Corin, and I guess Puppet?
So I haven't been reviewing them personally, but my PM is fantastic and has been giving me a monthly breakdown at officers meeting.
That's very awesome. You have a great PM. Yeah. So while we kind of work out this audit process, which I think we need to actually set this in stone, figure out, do we want to do this monthly? Do we want to go back to 6-month audits where we do a review of everything, compile those monthly? Which I'm actually in favor of, honestly.
Yeah. Well, we haven't actually transitioned away from 6 months audits.
Technically, yes, we have. I was doing 6-month audits just as a habit as KPM, but previously they were not. When we became a kingdom.
Hey, Corin, on the question you asked a minute ago on the awards, you said that there's a that the PMs report back the awards that the monarch awarded. Are those awards? Does that come out of the orc that they report back? Because that would be a good audit procedure if they're pulling something out of the orc, saying, "Here's the awards that have been entered into the orc," so the monarch can verify that the awards that they requested are what got submitted.
We do not actually have any sort of policies or procedures for how that's done, which is one of the things I've been working on during my reign as KPM, is just trying to get the policies set up so that we know how to do the things that we're trying to do. I don't have I'm working on pulling up the admin manual at the moment, so I don't have the text right in front of me at the moment, but I can have it soon for what's actually required to be reported. And part of it is a matter of I've had too many things to get done, and I'm late on some of the audit stuff, and some of it is just that the audit stuff is not very well defined as to what's wanted.
Okay, so we need to start by having a discussion about what we want to audit.
Well, the contents of the audit, that's fine. We can fine review that, and we can actually sit down with the KPM with this is exactly what we want. I do want to note that this isn't necessarily just reporting to the monarchs. We're actually reporting to the membership, at least in my opinion, what the audit really is. We're reviewing it obviously to make sure everybody's on track, but I've always taken the audit as this is a review of everything. We're handing it to the populace. You should be aware of what your officers are doing, how everything is going. So I'm not against the awards being on there, but the monarchs can also help out by inputting those in for you.
Mm-hmm. And for reference, this is Admin Manual A.5.5 C is the requirement this every 6 months.
Awesome. Let's get a game plan going forward. Is there dates there for our every 6 months so we can
February
have
and August
deadline? So is there an actual date? Just February?
Not just February and August, not specific dates beyond that.
Okay, and currently you're up to date for back in the August one?
Sorry, repeat question. I didn't understand the intent.
Sorry, were you up to date to the August one, or are you still looking at finishing?
My records are up to date. I just don't have things compiled into audit format.
Okay. Do you have an estimate of when you think that'll be ready and we can go through it? That way we're all getting used to reviewing this information?
Well, depending on what I'm working on. So if I'm focusing on reviewing files for making things publicly accessible, that's one set of work. If I'm working on doing this, that's a different set of work. And if I'm doing one before the other is going to be later being done.
Can you make a list and we'll just triage that and we'll say this is the priority list we'd like this handled in?
Yep.
I'd like the public files to be the number one priority right now, just because the current concern with everybody. I know a lot of people are feeling that they're a little bit uninformed on things.
Yeah.
Is that okay with everybody that that's the top priority?
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah, I think that should be top priority.
All right. So one concern that people have reasonably had is they don't feel they were well enough informed that Frozen Coast was in a suspended state or a what is it? Wrong word.
Yeah.
Probationary state for their attendance. I'll note that it was not publicly announced that they were in a probationary state, but the attendance has been kept in a public forum.
Yeah. Anybody can check the org and see that.
Well, and our PMs generally are really good about sharing that data from our monthly meeting or their monthly PM reports. That being said, I still understand people's frustration on that. If they weren't necessarily watching that, in the future, we do want to make sure I would like every 6 months, even if the audit's not complete, we're going to make sure to review that attendance. That way those notices can go out. That way people can correct these issues. One resolution I'd like to see going forward with this is actually, I'd say, at our second meeting of the month, I'd like to, as a group, review the PM reports. They are great about putting their PM reports in there. We should be reviewing them monthly. This will give us a chance to, all the monarchs to actually review those attendance, figure out what we can do to correct attendance issues before something like this happens again.
I like that as a solution. I would also like to see something included on the audit section of our admin manual where if a region goes under probationary status, they're warned.
Yes, we can add formal notice to our audit process.
That would be a good idea too. And maybe if they are on probation, like an update with it. So if like, oh, in 3 months they're not, still not up to, they're not reaching the numbers that they're gonna need, that like they get another, like just keeping it open that it's like, hey, you guys are still not doing great, or you guys are doing great, keep it up.
Generally, if we get in the habit of reviewing those PM reports every month, we should be able to keep on top of that. I think we've just we let the PMs do their data crunching and then we ignore their hard work of data crunching, which could be really helping us stay on top of things.
I agree, and like I said, I'm in full support of that plan. My concern would be that we're not going to be on the council forever, and I would like to see something put in stone for future future council.
Absolutely. So how do we want to resolve this? Do we want to get a group together specifically to work on how the audits are completed, what's required in them, specific date deadlines, and wording for the corpora? So this is all added in, which will obviously be an all-thing vote, but we'll need to have something put together.
So on that note, I remember at Wolf's Cry we were talking about putting together a full admin manual committee for reviewing several parts of the admin manual that needed to be reworked. Should we just add this to that, or do we want to designate this as its own separate issue since it's become such a firestorm?
I think it may need to be in and of itself, but predominantly for time's sake, because the corpora is going to be a large time sink.
Yeah, it's the problem of lots of little changes versus one big collection of changes.
Okay, that answers my question.
So is everyone in agreement they would like to have a committee formed for drafting how our audit process will be completed?
It sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me.
I'm in agreement.
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay, we'll draft something up and get it out on the Northreach page so people can apply to that. We'll give them about a month to form the committee. That way, hopefully, we can have most of their stuff buttoned up by the end of the reign, when we'll need to address this again. Is anybody wanting to head up that committee?
I would be willing. I don't have too much experience as a PM, but I've sat in on similar type events before, rule book changes and whatnot for rodeo.
I also could, as it's a subject that's currently designated under the Chancellor's Council.
I would really like Corin to work with this, but Dirksar, I'd like you to get involved too, just because you newer perspectives as well. If we can get you both on it, then I will get some applicants over to you to assist in this matter.
Absolutely.
I'd be willing to be on that committee as well.
Awesome. Forming up a committee. Look at us go. All right. Did anybody else have anything on audit procedures? All right, moving on. Rolo has some visitors from out of state that are wishing to play that are underage. Rolo, would you like to discuss this?
Hold on just a moment. So I think a lot of you saw on the Kingdom page, there's a person that reached out to us about their families coming up here. It's a family of 4. That family has 2 minors. One of the minors is under our age limit, is 11 years old, and is a level 4 barbarian in the park that they're currently playing in. And they're requesting that they would like to play at our park while they're here in town. They'll be here for 1 day. It's actually going to be during our mid-reign. And I did share some feedback with the council. I don't know if everybody's got a chance to read that, but I did share some feedback saying with that from their former champion, their current PM, telling us about how that person behaves on the field.
I believe I recall seeing the screenshots of the conversation. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't your mid-range going to be mostly
A battle game or 2.
Okay, so there are battle games planned for our mid-range. Sorry, I was talking with my region.
Do you mind sharing with everybody the input you got from the officers?
Hold on just a moment. I got to go back and find it.
While he looks for that, I'll elucidate to my question a little bit. I recall in the screenshots of the conversation that the PM said that he had a tendency to get frustrated, and if there was going to be no battle games, then it seemed unfair to put a kid that young in a tournament. Just because of the sheer number of disadvantages they face and not knowing their level of swordplay skill.
So yeah, I'm looking at. He said that Yap Yap is usually trouble-free. He follows the rules well and is good at taking his shots as any new player. He said the only concern he has with him is his on the field is his small stature, and he sometimes gets frustrated and gives up. He said overall he would recommend allowing him play, but well, he said openly it's up up to us.
I have respect for people that when they get frustrated, they leave the field.
Yeah, I
And
would
then-
have to agree with Puppet on this. I mean, I know personally I've gotten frustrated enough that I've at least taken a break or something like that. I think a lot of field issues in general can be avoided when people.
There's worse things you can do when you get frustrated. You could swing harder or something, get yourself in trouble. But if people are leaving the field, I'm okay with that.
Well, and that's why my concern was him just getting popped into a tournament where he was going to get stomped on all day.
Yeah,
Well, I
that's not the.
Parents would have a good judge of what situations they're wanting him to be in, and if it's emotionally okay for him. That being said, stepping away from what's going to be fun for him and what's not going to be fun for him, I like to look at this in terms of what we're wanting to allow on our field. That being said, Drake's here. Why don't we get some input from him? He is our kingdom champion. Let me unmute you, Drake.
Okay, sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So frequently, what we're really looking at when we're looking at letting underage players play is the issue of liability and how much we're exposing ourselves. I know historically we've always looked a lot at whether the parents are also amped guarders and are invested in the organization, which my impression is that his whole family plays. Is that
That's what it's sounding like from the messages.
Yeah, all four of them. The parents and the two children plan on attending.
and he's 11, is that right?
Correct.
Personally, his home kingdom's already taken responsibility for them. He's played a fair bit if he's level 4, and I don't feel like there's a whole lot of liability going on us, and I feel like there's probably not a big problem if we allow it. So, from my side, I feel like he'd probably be okay, and most of our people are pretty nice to underage players for the most part.
Awesome. Thank you, Drake. From Nalarian in our CoC Spectators Lounge, there's liability if something happens in our park.
Personally speaking, I would think that of all the parks in Froco, Ravenstone's probably one of the safest ones for small people to play in because there's so many small people up there.
I like how you're calling us the Kingdom of Froco now.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm going to be stuck on Frozen Stone because I heard about it like 6 times last week and 3 times today.
I would also have to agree that Ravenstone is definitely probably the better of most of the parks that we have for that. I kind of agree with Durashar on the maybe a tournament might not be the best idea, just because we do have a lot of people who travel there, and tournaments do always tend to have that. I know for me personally, I get considerably more competitive in a tournament versus a battle game. And some people don't always have that like off switch for, oh, I don't need to just stomp this poor child in this tournament.
To be fair, when I stomp a poor child in a tournament, it's my own daughter.
And that's fair.
Any other input on this before we vote on the matter? As a note, this would be a temporary permission that we were voting on, not a permanent, as other children votes are. Looks like we have
Yep.
people chatting in the. As Nilarian says, 11 is young, really young. Historically, for our group, just as a heads up, 11 is very young for what we've allowed. The youngest we've allowed in Northreach is 10. That was Fox Paws. Annabelle, my daughter, Sparky, was the 11-year-old we had, and everybody beyond that has been 12 to 13 years old that we've allowed.
No, last year we allowed Kaylee. She's 11.
Oh,
She might be just turning 12 around now.
I'm sorry, I thought she was 12. So 2 11-year-olds, a 10-year-old, and typically 12 to 13. So the 10 and the 11-year-old were very vested members previously, i.e. Goran and myself.
All right. And the ones that wants to come up, both of their parents play as well.
Yes. Any other questions, comments before we vote?
I feel like due to the limited number of battle games and the fact that both parents are vested in the organization and it's going to be a temporary, not a full-time come back and see us again pass, that we should be all right.
All right, barring no other discussion, let's take this to a vote. We're going to start, as always, with Astral Winds,
Yes.
Ravenstone,
Yes.
Lupin Moon,
Yes.
Frozen Coast,
Aye.
Icefire Bay. Or actually, sorry, I don't think we have.
Yes.
Oh, no, we do. You've been so quiet, I forgot we had you with us. Enjoying your meal?
Yeah.
Okay, that passing, that takes us to the end of our agenda. Did anybody have anything else they'd like to discuss before we go into closed session?
I don't have anything else.
I don't have anything.
All right. Thank you all for joining us tonight. If you have questions or things you would like us to add to future agendas, you're welcome to leave it in the spectators lounge or pop it over to us in some PMs. I will see all the monarchs down in the private channel for a closed session. Drake, please join us there as well.